Hello there. Yee-ha! The Scots have won their independence from an overbearing and failing Nicola Sturgeon. Scotland has now been freed from a self-obsessed First Minister who tried to bend gender to her own will. Cue much cheering and celebration. Going woke broke Nicola Sturgeon and her mad ideas. Mad ideas from gender to independence. And people are waking up to the thought that it was Nicola Sturgeon who was their enemy all along, not those dastardly fiends in Westminster. In fact, it was Westminster that saved them from that very unpopular piece of gender recognition law that Sturgeon hammered through against the nation's wishes, including some of her own politicians. It was Westminster that refused to allow that particular Holyrood bill to gain royal assent, much to the relief of the vast majority of women in Scotland. But as some wag has already said, if this resignation doesn't go her way, she can always demand another one, a resignation too. Now, this resignation came pretty much out of the blue in a rushed press conference in Bute House, and it's not like she was taking the real poundings that people like Boris Johnson had to endure. And although her poll ratings were slipping a bit, she still had the highest approval rating when compared to the likes of Sunak, Starmer, Sardar and Ross. But maybe her mistakes have now caught up with her and she recognised the writing on the wall earlier than most do. But why not hang around a bit longer to help her successor or help choose her successor? She wasn't in that much of a rush, was she? Anyway, it does show that the concept of go woke, go broke is alive and kicking, and should give us all heart that maybe we can take back control from the loony woke left. And now everyone's casting about to see who can replace her. And they're generally coming up blank, because there has been no thought of succession planning. No, Sturgeon flounced off without being pushed and left a power vacuum in her place. Nicola Sturgeon has been so self-obsessed that she's given no thought to how the party will continue, how its push for independence will continue, and with who as leader. She has failed her country with successive policy mistakes and has now failed her party by leaving it completely rudderless as she steps down to find a new direction for herself. And all she's done is dump the remnants of the gender recognition bill on her successor's lap, as well as all the education, ferries, bicycles, laptops and drug deaths messes. Then there's the 100,000 quid loan that her husband Peter Murrell gave to the SNP and all the question marks around that, and another £600,000 that is mysteriously ring-fenced for an IndyRef 2 and woven into the party's accounts that appear to show no such sum exists. Well, not anymore. Maybe the recently visiting ETs spirited it away with them. Now, will the SNP do the honourable thing? The thing they demand of others when they change leaders without an election? Will the SNP hold a Holyrood election to give their new leader a full mandate from the Scottish electorate? Especially as the performance of the SNP has been disastrous in many areas after 8 years of Sturgeon's misrule. And maybe with her leaving, the Scottish voters might also want a change of direction from their government. Or will the SNP hang on tenaciously to what they have and hold out until the 2026 election, regardless? Answers on a postcard. Now that other nationalist party led by the former First Minister of Scotland and Nicola Sturgeon's predecessor, Alex Salmond, the Alba Party, might be looking to gain support from any ensuing confusion caused by Sturgeon's departure. And Salmond stated straight after her resignation that she has left the independence question up in the air with no clear strategy. Well, Sturgeon's strategy appears to me to have been all about Sturgeon, not about Scotland. So I would assume that our Nicola does have a parachute tucked away somewhere. But just the one parachute, for her. Anyway, without Westminster support for an IndyRef 2 and little support for following Sturgeon's plan to make the next general election a de facto independence referendum in Scotland, the options for them do appear limited. Oh, and anyone who now thinks that Sturgeon stepping down will boost the chances for Scottish Labour to win a few Holyrood and Westminster seats, they might have to think again when they consider that 18 Labour MSPs voted for Sturgeon's gender recognition bill and only 2 voted against it. And the Scots voters will remember that. They will know that Labour is at least as woke as the SNP is over that particular issue. And maybe they won't want it coming back in a watered-down form that could end up getting royal assent. But whether it will lean Scots voters towards voting for the Tories, who mostly, apart from 4 of them, voted against that bill, is another matter. Anyway, the runners and riders who want to replace Nicola Sturgeon will soon make themselves known. But in the meantime, we'll all be subjected to all the usual guff about how marvellous she was, etc. But the big question is, will she be accepting any offer of an honour? Maybe a seat in the House of Lords?
So, Nicola Sturgeon has resigned. And she said it has nothing to do with short-term issues, like gender self-identification. And I've got a 12-inch... Yeah, okay. Does she actually think most people are stupid? Okay, most people are stupid, seeing as they did not rise up against her authoritarian dictatorship during the global medical emergency. And as I said in a recent video, timing reveals all. So, Nicola, we all know why you really resigned. It's the same reason the horse resigned, because we don't hold the same liberal left values as you and your morally and ideologically totally unrelatable chums. Yes, you politicians. You know, in your resignation speech, you mentioned being a feminist. Now, let me get my head around this. So, feminists don't know what a woman is. Okay, just as long as we have that cleared up. So, does that mean being a Scottish nationalist means you don't want independence for Scotland as well? Well, you've done a cracking job at pushing back the cause of Scottish independence with your feminist views. So I'm sure the two are somehow interlinked. Oh, this is all too confusing. If all these inversions are true, then, Nicola, I have a job for you. I want you to be a monarchist and work for our WEF puppet king. That way we'll be rid of this specific royal family in next to no time. Oh, and whilst you're at it, you couldn't go and head up the BBC as well for us, could you? We so desperately need you there to push your how so incredibly relatable and beloved values upon us all. Yes. That will ensure the BBC will continue to have a long and successful relationship with the British public. Believe it or not, I also believe in devolution, but to the county level, where the extent of my government only reaches as far as the county boundary. To me, democratic accountability should always be one pitchfork away in distance. I think Sturgeon has done a wonderful job for the unionist cause. But what do you lot think about Sturgeon stepping down and her version of feminism? Spill it out in the comment section, you beautiful people. And we are now uploading 2 videos a day. Well, most days. So see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. 1 p.m.